We are reading The Tiger Rising, and we are on chapter 17. Whoops, that's a little bit too far down, right? That's better. Page 63. The next morning, Rob was helping Willie Mae in the laundry room. They were folding sheets and chewing 8-ball gum. All night he had tossed and turned, scratching his legs and thinking about the tiger and what Sistine said, that he had to be set free. He had finally decided to get Willie Mae's opinion. Excuse me. Have you ever been to a zoo? Rob asked her. One time, said Willie Mae. She cracked her gum. Went to the zoo over in Sorley. The place stunk. Do you think them animals minded it being locked up like that? Wasn't nobody asking them, did they mind? Willie Mae pulled another sheet out of the dryer and snapped it open. Rob tried again. Do you think it's bad to keep animals locked up? Willie Mae looked at him over the top of her glasses, and she stared at him hard. Rob looked down at his feet. When I wasn't but little, said Willie Mae, my daddy bought me a bird in a cage. It was a green parakeet bird. The bird was so small I could hold it right in the palm of my hand. She draped a sheet over one shoulder and held out a cupped hand to show Rob. It looked to him like a hand big enough to hold the entire world. Held him in my hand. Could feel his little heart beating. He would look at me, cock his head this way and that way. I called him Cricket on account of him singing all the time. What happened to him? Rob asked. Willie Mae bent and took a pillowcase out of the dryer. I let him go, she said. You let him go? Rob repeated, his heart sinking like a stone. Couldn't stand seeing him locked up, so I let him go. She folded the pillowcase carefully. And then what happened? I got beat by my daddy. He said I didn't do that bird no favor, said all I did was give some snake its supper. So you never saw him again? Rob asked. Nuh-uh, said Willie Mae. But sometimes he comes flying through my dreams, flitting about and singing. She shook her head and reached for the sheet on her shoulder. Here, she said. Go on and grab hold of the other end to help me fold this up. Rob took hold of the sheet, and as it billowed out between them, a memory rose up before him. His father standing out in the yard, holding his gun up to the sky, taking aim at a bird. You think I can hit it? His father said. You think I can hit that itty-bitty bird? Robert, his mother said, what do you want to shoot that bird for? To prove that I can, said his father. There was a single crack, and the bird was suspended in midair, pinned for a moment to the sky with his father's bullet. And then it fell. Oh, Robert, his mother said. It hurt the back of Rob's throat to think about that now, to think about that gun and his mother and the small thud the bird made when it hit the ground. I know something that's in a cage, said Rob, pushing the words past the tightness in his throat. Willie Mae nodded her head, but she wasn't listening. She was looking past Rob, past the white sheet, past the laundry room, past the Kentucky Star. Who don't, she said finally. Who don't know something that's in a cage? After that, they folded the sheets in silence. Rob thought about the bird and how when she had finally found its small, still warm body, he had started to cry. His father told him not to. Ain't nothing to cry over, he said. It's just a bird. Chapter 18. His father was sweeping the cement walkway in front of the Kentucky Star rooms when Beauchamp pulled up in his red Jeep and honked the horn. Hey there, he hollered. Beauchamp was a large man with orange hair and an orange beard and a permanent toothpick in the side of his mouth. The toothpick waggled as he talked, as if it was trying to make a point of his own. We got you on the payroll now, too, Beauchamp shouted. No, sir, said Rob. All right, hooted Beauchamp. He hopped out of the Jeep. Got you working for free. That's what I like to hear. Yes, sir, said Rob. Hey, ain't you supposed to be in school, or are you done graduated already? The gold chains buried deep in Beaucamp's orange chest hair winked at Rob. I'm sick, said Rob. Sick and tired of school, right? He slapped Rob on the back. Don't got a mama putting down the rules for you, do you? Got to make your own rules. Not me, said Beauchamp. He jerked his head in the direction of the motel office where his mother, Ida Bell, worked the front desk. He winked at Rob and then looked to the left. Then right. Looky here, he said in a quieter voice. I got me a number of deals going on right now, a few more than I can properly handle. I wonder if a smart boy like yourself wouldn't be looking for a way to pick up some extra spending money. He didn't wait for Rob to answer. Let me tell you what I got cooking. You like animals? Rob nodded. Of course you do, said Beauchamp, nodding with him. What boy don't? You like wild animals? Rob's heart skipped a beat, and he suddenly knew where Beauchamp was headed. I got me a wild animal, said Beauchamp. I got me a wild animal, and you would not believe, right here on my own property. And I got some plans for him, big plans. But in the meantime, he needs some taking care of, some daily maintenance. You follow me, son? Yes, sir, said Rob. All right, said Beauchamp, and he slapped Rob on the shoulders again. Why don't you climb on into this Jeep and let me take you for a ride, show you what I'm talking about? I'm supposed to be sweeping, said Rob, and he held up the broom. Says who, said Beauchamp, suddenly angry. Your daddy, he ain't the boss. I'm the boss, and if I say let's go, you say all right. All right, said Rob. He looked over his shoulder, wishing fervently that Willie May or his father would appear to save him from Beauchamp, knowing at the same time that he could not be saved and that he was on his own. Good, said Beauchamp. Climb on up. Rob climbed into the passenger seat, and there was a big brown grocery bag at his feet. Go on, put that in the back, said Beauchamp as he swung into the driver's seat. The bag was heavy and it stunk. Rob carefully put it on the floor in the back and then noticed his hands. There was blood on his fingers. That's just from the meat, said Beauchamp. It won't hurt you none. He cranked the engine. It roared to life, and they went tearing around behind the Kentucky Star and into the woods. Beauchamp drove like he was crazy. He gunned for trees and then swerved away from them at the last minute, whooping and hollering the whole time. Ain't gonna believe what I got to show you, Beauchamp hollered after him. No, sir, said Rob weakly. What? Beauchamp shouted. No, sir, Rob shouted back. I ain't going to believe it. But he did believe it. He believed it with all of his heart. Chapter 19. Actually, we're going to take a pause here for a moment. Chapter 19. Beauchamp hit the brakes. We're almost there, he said. You got to close your eyes so it's a surprise. Rob closed his eyes and the Jeep went forward slowly. Don't cheat now, Beauchamp said. Keep them eyes closed. Yes, sir, said Rob. All right, Beauchamp said finally. Go on and open them up. He had pulled up the Jeep close to the tiger cage as possible without driving right into it. Tell me what you see, he crowed. Tell me, what is before your very eyes? A tiger, said Rob, and he let his mouth drop open and he tried to look excited and amazed. Damn straight, said Beauchamp. King of the jungle, and he's all mine. Wow, said Rob. You own him? That's right, said Beauchamp. Fellow I know owed me some money, paid me with a tiger. That's the way real men do business, in tigers. He'd come complete with the cage. The toothpick in the side of his mouth danced up and down. Beauchamp put a finger up to steady it into silence. What are you going to do with them? Rob asked. I'm studying my options. I figure I could set him out in front of the Kentucky Star, have him draw me some more business in the motel. The tiger stood and stared at Beauchamp. Beauchamp looked away from him, and he tapped his thick fingers on the steering wheel. I also might just kill him, Beauchamp said, and skin him and make me a tiger coat. I ain't made up my mind. He's a lot of work, I'll tell you that. He needs meat twice a day, and that's where you come in. I need you to come out here and feed him. $2 every time you do it. How's that sound? Rob swallowed hard. How do I get the meat in the cage? He asked. Beauchamp dug in his pocket and pulled out a set of keys. With these, he said. He shook the keys, and they gave a sad jingle. Don't pay no attention to them big keys. They're for the locks on the door. Open them up, and that tiger will get out and eat you for sure. You understand? I ought not to give you this whole set, but I know you won't open up that door, right? You ain't no fool, right? Rob testified, terrified that the keys to the cage existed and that they were about to be handed to him, nodded. See this tiny key, Beauchamp said. Rob nodded again. That's for the food door right there, at the bottom of the cage. You just open that up and toss the meat in a piece at a time, just like this. Beauchamp swung himself out of the Jeep with a grunt. He reached in the back seat for the grocery bag and took out a piece of meat. He bent over and unlocked the tiny door. He opened it and threw the meat in. The tiger leaped forward, and Beauchamp took a quick step backward, stumbling. That's all there is to it, he said, straightening up. His forehead was shining with sweat and his hands were trembling. What's the tiger's name? Rob asked. Name? Said Beauchamp. He ain't got no name. You don't give names something before you toss it a piece of meat. Rob shrugged and he blushed. He bent over to scratch his legs so that he wouldn't have to look at Beaucamp's sweaty, angry face. You want to get introduced proper? Said Beauchamp in a mocking tone. Well then, get on out of the Jeep. Rob climbed down. Beauchamp grabbed hold of the fence and shook it. The tiger looked up from his meat. His muzzle was red with blood, and he stared at Beauchamp with a fierce look in his eyes that was familiar to Rob. Hey, Beauchamp shouted. You see this boy here? He pointed at Rob. He's your meal ticket, not me. Not me. It's this boy. He's got the keys now. Understand? I don't got them no more. This boy's got them. He's your boy. The tiger stared at Beauchamp a minute more and then slowly lowered his head and started back to work on the meat. Now you two know each other, said Beauchamp. He pulled a tattered bandana from his pocket and wiped the sweat off his forehead. On the hair-raising ride back to the Kentucky Star, Rob realized who the tiger stare reminded him of. It was Sistine. He knew that when he told her he had the keys to the cage, her eyes would glow with the same fierce light. He knew that she would insist that now they had to let the tiger go. Chapter 20. It's a gnat. The last thing Beauchamp said to him was, "Don't forget now, this is our business deal. Doesn't concern nobody else. You take that bag of meat and you hide it somewhere, and I'll bring you more meat tomorrow. In the meantime, you keep your mouth shut." At 3 o'clock, the school bus pulled up, belching, gasping, and sighing. Norton and Billy Thurmonger started pelting Rob with date palms before the bus even came to a complete stop. The bus door opened and Sistine came running towards him, dodging the dates, looking as serious as a soldier on a battlefield. "Let's go see the tiger," she shouted to him. Rob was dismayed to see that she was still wearing his shirt and his jeans. "Where's your dress?" he blurted. "In here," she said. She held up the same grocery bag that he had given her the night before. "I changed as soon as I got out of the house. My mother doesn't know. I found a book in the library today and read about big cats. Do you know that panthers live in the woods here? We could set the tiger free and he could live with them. Come on," she said, and she started to run. Rob ran too, but the keys to the cage felt heavy in his pocket, and they bumped up against his leg and slowed him down so that Sistine beat him there. When he arrived, she was standing, pressed up against the fence, her fingers wrapped in the chain link. "Tigers are an endangered species, you know," she said. "It's up to us to save him." "Watch out he don't attack you," Rob said. "He won't. Tigers only attack people if they're desperately hungry." "Well, this one ain't hungry." "How do you know?" Sistine asked, turning around and looking at him. "Well," said Rob, "he ain't skinny, is he? He don't look starved." Sistine stared at him hard, and Rob opened his mouth and let the word fall out. "Keys," he said. Every secret, magic word he had ever known, tiger and cancer and Caroline, every word in his suitcase seemed to fall right out of him when he stood before Sistine. "What?" she said. "Keys," he said again, and he cleared his throat. "I got the keys to the cage." "How?" "Beauchamp," he told her. "He hired me to feed his tiger, and he gave me the keys." "All right," cried Sistine. "Now all we have to do is open the locks and let him go." "No," said Rob. "Are you crazy?" she asked him. "It ain't safe. It ain't safe for him. My friend Willie Mae, she had a bird and let it go, and it just got ate up." "You're not making sense," she told him. "This is a tiger, not a bird, and I don't know who Willie Mae is, and I don't care. You can't stop me from letting this tiger go. I'll do it without the keys. I'll saw the locks off myself." "Don't," said Rob. "Don't," she mocked back, and then she spun around and grabbed hold of the cage and shook it the same way Beauchamp had earlier that day. "I hate this place," she said. "I can't wait for my dad to come and get me. When he gets here, I'm going to make him come out here and set this tiger free. That's the first thing we'll do." She shook the cage harder. "I'll get out. I'll get you out of here," she said to the pacing tiger. "I promise." She rattled the cage as if she were the one who was locked up. The tiger paced back and forth, without stopping. "Don't," said Rob. But she didn't stop. She shook the cage and beat her head against the chain link, and then he heard her gasp. He was afraid that maybe she was choking. He went and stood next to her, and then he saw that she was crying. Crying! Sistine! He stood beside her, terrified and amazed. When his mother was alive, when he still cried about things, she had been the one who comforted him. She would cup her hand around the back of his neck and say to him, "You go on and cry. I got you. I got a hold of you." Before Rob could think whether it was right or whether it was wrong, he reached out and put his palm on Sistine's neck. He could feel her pulse, beating in time with the tiger's pacing. He whispered to her the same words his mother had whispered to him. "I got you," he told her. "I got good hold of you." Sistine cried and cried. She cried as if she would never stop. And she did not tell him to take his hand away. And that is the end of chapter 20 in The Tiger Rising.